Think about it for a minute. You're overloaded with information every day, not just on
Yep.
social media, but everywhere. So if you're not in that content, in their inbox, in their realm, or on that retargeting page, right, in that ad, you're lost in the noise. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode with Tony and Nicole from Growth Media. Today, we are going to talk about established businesses and what you would do to scale your business. So in our last video, we talked to, if you're just starting out, where you would start in digital marketing. This video is a follow-up to that. We are going to talk about if you've already got all those things checked off, what would you do next to scale your business?
Absolutely. So let's get started.
So we have our Google business page set up. We have a
Yep.
website. We have our social media platforms. What would be the next thing to scale? We've run some paid ads. We've done $1 a day strategy on Facebook and Instagram. What would I look at next?
All right. So I guess based on that, what you want to try to do now is try to figure out what actually is making you money and do more of them. Right. So okay. So let's just say you already are running your Google ad campaigns and maybe you have a landing page or maybe you don't. All right. So what you want to start to do now is, let's just say, because most people, what they'll do is they will have their website and they'll start with Google Ads and they'll start to drive traffic to their site and they'll get leads and things like that. Okay. Now, what you want to try to do is you want to try to optimize to try to capture as many as you can. What we do there is we will create a specific landing page for a specific set of keywords. Okay. And optimize the two to get the most return for that ad spend. All right. So that's when you really start to dive into optimizing what you're doing from a campaign standpoint of view. All right. So does that make a little bit of sense or should I elaborate a little bit more?
I think for me, it makes sense. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it specifically for, let's say, a gym, for example, and break it down so that if for someone completely unfamiliar with landing page and keywords, what are
Yeah.
you talking about, Tony? Let's break it down a little bit more for that and maybe use an example.
Yeah. So let me maybe I'll start here. Okay. So there's certain keywords that drive money to your business. So in the gym aspect of things, right? Let's just say this gym, maybe they do personal training, right? Or they do I don't know, like maybe group classes. Okay. So Google is one way you can advertise. Obviously, and there's Facebook too, but we'll just pick on Google. And people are actually every day searching for maybe gym near me or personal trainers near me. Okay. Now, if you rank organically, that's another separate conversation. You should hopefully come up, right, up higher on the search results. But what you do with Google is you pay for those campaigns, okay, or those keywords, excuse me, and that will drive traffic to your site. Now, what will happen is because most people will drive traffic to homepage, the homepage is not specific to those keywords, right? It's more of a generic. I always say it's almost like when you first walk into like a store, like there's all these different departments, right? And you have to find out the department you want to go into. I'm like, oh, I don't want the children's clothing. I want the makeup, right? So it's the same thing. You have this generic overall of what the business is. And from there, somebody will actually go someplace else. What people want is they want answers quick. So if I click on an ad or a keyword that says personal trainer near me, I want to land on a landing page that says personal trainer near me
Personal
or
training.
keywords specifically that say that. Okay. If not, what's going to happen is number one, you're going to drive your cost up as far as what you're paying for those keywords because you're not giving the user a good experience. Google will charge you more. They know that, okay, with their logarithms and all their mysterious things they do in the background, right? So what you want to try to do is optimize those landing pages for your keywords. And that's the things we start to do for that. Now, I touched a little bit about the Google as far as the organic or SEO part of it. See, the SEO part of it is this. So so let's talk about personal trainer near me. Okay. If that's a word that you know for a fact, right, is making you money and driving business, because every time someone's looking for that word or types that word in, you know that you get a lead. And out of those 10 leads, you end up booking two or three people as far as personal training sessions. Okay. What you do is I relate to Google and keywords like this. If I don't know if I'm going to this car for the long term, I may lease the car. I may pay for it. Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out if I do like this vehicle, right? If I like this vehicle, then maybe I'll buy it at the end. It's the same thing. What you're doing is you're in Google, you're buying this word to see if it actually gives you the results that you're expected, right? If it doesn't, that's not worth buying it. If it does, now what you're going to do, you're going to spend all the time and effort creating landing pages, blog art, anything to do with that keyword, guest posts, videos. You're going to create content around that keyword because what you're going to do is if you do that, you're going to own it. And now you don't have to spend the money because now you own it. But it's a lot of work to do that. And that's why we, again, with the more expert strategies or more advanced strategies, this is what we're talking about, how we use Google campaigns with these LPs to decide what we're going to create in the future to drive more business and money to the facility. And again, it's a convoluted way, but that's what you do when it comes
Yeah.
to that. And then if you're doing all those things, people are going there and then you're going to retarget those people on Facebook and some of these other things because you want to remind them, hey, I know you just visited this page. Maybe you throw them an offer. Hey, if you book today, we're going to do a free week of classes or whatever the situation may be to try to entice them. And I'm sure you've done it before where you went on site to look at shoes and you didn't buy it. And the next thing you know on Facebook, you see the same shoes that you just saw, right? It's called retargeting, right? If they're following you.
You're
But
right.
well, yeah, yeah, they're doing it. And again, and these are the strategies that are obviously more advanced. And again, and that's not even for people that are established. This does get into a lot of depth. And this is, again, most people that own a business are not going to have the time, resources, and know how to do a lot of these things. You know what I mean? So that's where a lot of times you would hire that a company to do that. But if it's driving that much money into your business, it's worth doing that, by the way, because you want to focus on having those meetings and doing what you're doing with the people that are coming through the doors and letting another company worrying about creating the LPs and the blog posts and whatever, maybe videos that you're giving them and they're going to be posting those. And just to reinforce the fact that you're the expert in the area when it comes to personal training. And we own this word, and anyone that's thinking about it is going to come to my gym. And that's how
Mhm.
it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would look at website optimization and SEO is what I'm hearing. And then
Yep.
you touched on retargeting. So doing some paid ads that are not just to the local area or this audience, but anyone who visited this website page. I want to now retarget them because maybe they didn't
Yep.
go to the cart or they didn't buy or they didn't fill out this form or whatever the conversion goal was. They didn't do that. So now I want them to continue to see my ads in my business to stay top of mind so that I can maybe offer them something so that they do convert. So that would be the next few steps that you'd want to scale. Let's talk about I have all these leads and information. Should I look at investing or putting some dollars towards a CRM or maybe a marketing email system of some kind?
Listen, absolutely. And again, I think this is where people go wrong because again, you're getting all these leads, right? And not everyone is ready to book, right? So by having them come into some kind of CRM, number one, when they do move forward, you're able to get them set up, you have all their information and things like that. But more importantly, for the people that don't come on board, you want to have some kind of email follow-up or something. Again, like either giving them value, building that trust, because again, a lot of times if they don't really know who you are, like everyone knows Nike, and I use Nike a lot because everyone knows them. You don't have to, you trust them, whatever. So for a lot of these local businesses, they may not know who you are. So having these email sequences to potentially give value. So again, we're going to use that gym example. Maybe it's a free nutrition guide. Maybe it's the exercises of the week, right? But what you're doing is you're always helping, and eventually what will happen is because you've stayed in their circle of influence, right? And you've been helping them along the way, when that person is ready to book, they're going to call you. They're not going to go down the road, right? But what happens is so many people don't have these CRMs and some of these follow-ups and things like that. And again, just like anything else, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm all excited about something, and then life gets in the way. The wife does this, or I got to take the dog here, right? And it might be a month and a half later, until I do another search again for that, maybe that fitness instructor near me or whatever it happens to be. And now your ad doesn't come up and I see someone else. And because they did their job, I go to them. So many times I've even done this myself where just because I saw something today, a lot of times I bought, whether it's a coaching program or something like that, it's been like a year and a half later where I've actually made the purchase, right? In the wedding industry, from a
Mhm.
DJ standpoint of view, right?
Yeah.
Same thing there. People get married, you see us at a bridal show, it's like a year and a half before they reach out. But having that consistent emails and touch points and things like that, why would they?
You lost audio. Wait,
Now,
I think you're back.
all right, good.
Okay. Yeah, you said
Where
those, why would they go to those other touch, when you're doing those touch points, why would they go to other people? And then you were like starting
oh
to get
yes.
into it and it was
Yeah,
silent.
what ends up happening with the emails. So let's just say, again, this is a mistake that a lot of businesses do, right? You get the leads and then you never follow up. And what happens is,
Or
there's,
they send out the first email and then leave it alone. And the first
yeah,
email is loaded with information. Here's what I
correct.
do. Here's how to
It's like
contact. It's like,
information overload.
whoa.
Yeah. Which is,
Hmm.
again, which is a huge mistake. I always say you want to lead the horse to the water, not shove his head into the water. You know what I mean? But that's what happens. And again, that's why these things are a little more advanced. Like the beginning business owner, you want to keep it super simple for them, right?
Yeah.
Because these things get super complicated, right? But now going back to the established business owner, right? What generally happens with people is this: they're up at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it is, they search for something, right? And their intent is to get that answer solved or solve the problem that they're having. Okay? But here's what happens: life gets in the way. Something with the wife or the dog gets whatever happens to be,
Kid
and now
starts
it's some
crying.
yeah, it's a month and a half later before they start to think about that problem again. Now, what happens is if you haven't followed up with them and established that relationship, they're going to go back on Google, right? And maybe they don't see your other, maybe they do, but they go, you know what? Let me try this person. And miraculously, they book that person and not you, right? And the whole idea about following up with people is this: you're building trust, you're giving them value. So if there's an email sequence going up as far as giving a little bit about you, maybe sharing nutrition tips or quick exercises you can do from home, whatever it happens to be, if it's a gym owner, and other businesses have a ton of different things, super easy to do. But if 3 months from now, when this person's ready to book, you've already established that relationship, why would I go date the girl that I don't know when I already know the one that's been keeping in touch with me? It's such an easier thing. I'm not going to go reinvent the wheel. So that's why it's so important to have these follow-up systems and things like that, these CRMs that do that. And again, from like I own many of you guys know, I own a DJ company as well. And I'll meet somebody at a bridal show, and a year and a half later is when they're getting married or to the point, and they'll reach out a year later and saying, "Hey, do you remember me from the show?" And the reason why they remember me is because I've been sending them emails one every month, just touching base with little tips and tricks and things like that when they're setting out their journey for their wedding. So it's
Yeah.
such a key thing. It's dollars wasted, by the way. I think so many people spend money on those ads and they forget. Don't stop looking for the next one. Work with the people you kind of already have now too, because like you can turn those into really good people and new customers if you focus on them as well, instead of always just focusing on bringing in new people, bringing in new people, bringing in new people. And that's where the
Yeah.
CRM comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And having that nurture sequence, even newsletters, like you're saying, and
Yep.
every month you just send a newsletter. This is the event that we just did, or this is the new class that we have at our gym, or this is a special offer we're offering right now. But those touch points to stay top of mind, because
Yep.
otherwise, there's how many unread emails do you have in your inbox right now? Think about it for a minute. You're overloaded with information every day, not just on
Yep.
social media, but everywhere. So if you're not in that content, in their inbox, in their realm, or on that retargeting page, right, in that ad, you're lost in the noise. So it is really important to make sure that you have multiple touch points, that they see your business name so they can
Yeah.
start to remember you, so that you are the first person they call.
Yeah. And that's where the retargeting comes in because, again, back in the day when information wasn't as fast moving as it is today, like they anywhere between 15 to 20 touch points, maybe 25, before people actually start to know who you are, right? But like right now, it's such a blur that the statistics are that, you're going to need 70 to 80 touch points before they start to remember who you are. And again, it's just because social media, things happen so fast. There's so many different companies out there coming at you that unless you have content that's interesting, right? Unless they see a face to the business and they start to connect with you and things like that. These are like all little things that are super important if you want to stand out from the rest of the group, right? Don't do what everyone else is doing. Do you? You know what I mean? And that's what they're going to remember because you're different. And again, and we work a lot with local companies, right? Local businesses, and it's so key, right? You know what I mean? It's no longer the logo it's the face behind the logo, and that's who they connect with, whether it's the owner or somebody on staff and things like that, because they can relate to you. Oh, that guy looks just like me, or he understands me. So again, all these little things help for that established business to take that business to the next level. You know what I mean? These are the things that you have to start to look at and start to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last but another very critical piece is to make sure you're looking at your data, because you need to make decisions based on that. Tony said right off the bat is what's making me money, and that's what I need to be doing more of. So using all of the analytics from all the things that you're doing, your customer feedback, your current clients, right, and your retargeting ads, all that stuff is where you need to say, okay, what's working, and then do more of that.
Yeah, you're more important. Like it's this, right? There's a term called digital plumbing, and what it is, just making sure you have all your tracking points, right? Because the whole idea is if you're spending money blind, like I say, if you go bowling, right, and you throw the ball down the lane, and if someone puts a piece of cardboard in front of you and you can't see what pins go down, right, you don't know what's going on, right? You know how to keep score. It's so important to set these things up. So what do you do? It's the Google Analytics, it's the tracking goal, it's using Google Tag Manager, it's the Facebook Pixel, it's the Google Pixel, right? And these are all the things that will give you that information where it's okay, you spend 1,000, you got 100 leads, right? And these are how many leads, booked appointments or whatever, or you got quotes from, or depending on what business, right? And out of these 10 that we had appointments with, you had 5, right? So you do the math and you're like, okay, every time I do this is pretty consistent. And so I know that it costs me X anytime to get a new client. So if you know that, it's pretty repeatable. You just keep doing this over and over again. But if you don't know that, you're just flying blind. Now, the nice thing about smaller businesses is that we're versus a big one, a lot of times the owner is actually the one answering the phone and they get an opportunity like, hey, where'd you hear about me? So having these tracking analytics, and again, with these CRMs and depending on what you're using, it'll actually tell you that these people came from a Google ad or they came from this specific ad or this keyword, things like that. So you have really measurable tools and data to really tell you, wow, okay, so Mr. Smith came from this Google ad. This is what pages he was on. All right. And it resulted into this, right? For a lot of big organizations, sometimes there's so many people coming in, there's no way of tracking sometimes, or because most salespeople are not worrying about the marketing department saying, oh, yeah, no, Mr. Jones said they came from Google ad, but they don't even care, right? They just want the sales. So it makes it a little bit trickier, but having these metrics in place, okay, our website traffic increased. Because our website traffic increased, our contacts or form submissions increased or our calls increased, right? We have ways of tracking all of that stuff. And we know, hey, we established a trend last year. This is what we had this month. And this year it looks like this. If something's heading the other direction, it's okay. You can make adjustments. Why? You can ask yourself why. Without numbers, you can't keep making adjustments and stuff like that. Maybe the market's down. Maybe a COVID happens, right? There's a lot of different things that happen. And it could be good reasons why business went down the other direction. But if you don't have the tracking mechanism, you're flying blind, and you know what happens there. And spending a lot of money
Absolutely.
and with no results. And then they say marketing doesn't work.
We hear that.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. You mentioned digital plumbing, and we've talked about it in a few of our videos. So
Yep.
I think it's important for us to address that. So if you're watching and you're like, what is that? Stay tuned, because that'll be our next episode. So make sure
Awesome.
to follow and subscribe wherever you're watching this from. Drop a comment and let us know what your thoughts are. Are you just starting out? Are you scaling? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? If you have questions, and let's grow together.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. See you next time.